Today's episode of the After Chat is brought to you by Blue Chew. Guys, remember the days when you were always ready to go? Now you can increase your performance and get that extra confidence in bed. Listen up. BlueChew.com, that's blue like the color blue. BlueChew.com brings you the first chewable with the same FDA-approved active ingredients as Viagra and Cialis, so you know it's the real deal, and it's the stuff that works. You can take them anytime, day or night, even on a full stomach, and since they're chewable, they work up to twice as fast as a pill, so you can be ready whenever the opportunity, let's say, arises. Now, this isn't just for guys with dysfunction. It's for any guy who wants extra function and to enhance their performance in the bedroom. I have a number of friends who have tried Blue Chew, and they have nothing but amazing things to say about it. Blue Chew is prescribed online and shipped straight to your door in a discreet package. So, no in-person doctor's visit, no waiting in the pharmacy, and best of all, no more awkwardness. They're made in the USA, and since Blue Chew prepares and ships direct, they're cheaper than a pharmacy. Right now, we've got a special deal for our listeners. Visit BlueChew.com and get your first shipment absolutely free when you use the special promo code BILL. Just pay $5 shipping. Again, that's BLUE Chew.com, promo code BILL to try it free. Blue Chew is the better, cheaper, faster choice, and we thank them for sponsoring the After Chat.
Are you kidding me? Episode 29 already? Oh, we're on? Hello, everyone. This is Bill Apter, and welcome to episode 29 of the After Chat. And with me today, as always, through 29 episodes, even though I've missed one or two on my own, but I have called in or I've taped in, is my co-host, Josh Shernoff. Welcome back to the show. Great job last week.
Oh, thank you. Welcome back to the show, Bill. We missed you.
Well, thank you, and I miss being there. And one of the main things that I regretted was that was the week where, and I know I spoke about it a little bit, the passing of my old friend Pedro Morales. So
yes,
now that I'm here.
Yeah, I was going to say, if you have any memories or any thoughts that you'd like to share, I think we'd love to hear
There's
it.
one thing I want to say. I am ready for any kind of show, baby.
Sounds good. Well, and we've got a show for you today with a special guest, Nikita Koloff. That's going to be
my comrade.
Yeah,
there's stuff to talk to him about. Eons and eons of just so many years that I was both in the wrestling business relationship with him and also personal friends still to today. So much to talk to him about. But the main thing is that the National Wrestling Alliance is bringing back the Crockett Cup.
Yes, and we're going to talk to him all about that and see what his involvement's going to be. But first, Bill, do you want to grab a headlock?
On headlines. Absolutely. And it is right now in a few hours, we will be going on the pod waves. And we got a very interesting press release from the WWE. So
it's breaking news.
Yeah, breaking news right now. Roman Reigns will appear on Monday Night Raw to address his fight against leukemia. So it's a who, what, where, when. WWE superstar Roman Reigns, a.k.a. Joe Anoa'i. What? Update to the WWE Universe about his fight against leukemia. When? This Monday, February 25th at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 7 Central on the USA Network. And where? At the State Farm Arena in Atlanta, Georgia. And do you know who's going to be there in person?
I don't know.
The one day to be legendary son of mine, Brandon Apter. He will be in attendance.
Very nice.
Yes. And it's also the 70th birthday of the Nature Boy.
Yes, it is. Nature Boy Ric Flair will be celebrating. I'm sure Becky Lynch is going to be involved in that somehow.
Oh, I would definitely think so.
Yeah.
Definitely. I mean that's so it just channeled that has to happen.
Yeah. So, Bill, one of the things that we had in our format that we wanted to talk about, that I don't think you can go this week without talking about this guy, Kofi Kingston. Man,
Oh
what
man.
a week he has had.
When I was growing up, there was a young wrestler um, who was billed from the West Indies. A lot of people say he's Latin American.
Hmm.
His name is Dory Dixon, and he was very similar to what I see in Kofi Kingston. When I first met Kofi, when he first started in the WWE, and I was backstage one night, I said to him, "You know what? You remind me of this guy Dory Dixon," and he was really thrilled to hear this. But Kofi Kingston has been, and I'm not going to say stuck in New Day for so many years, but it's more like a comedy shtick type of angle when he is one of the prime pro wrestling athletes in that company. Do you
Yeah,
agree?
I do, but here's kind of the interesting thing about that. And I agree completely that he's been in, and I agree not stuck, but he's been involved in a comedy trio. But if you think about beforehand, Kofi Kingston's career trajectory was really like he had hit his peak and was on his way down. And I think a lot of people were like, well, Kofi's not really going to ever get bigger than he was. And then New Day breathed new life
Yes.
into his career. And I think everybody then just kind of looked at it like, oh, wow, so we got all this more. He created a whole new legacy for himself with New Day. And one day, he'll move on from it, but, maybe something will happen with the other guys. But man, I mean, I've loved Kofi Kingston from so far ago, but when he still had an
Me
accent.
too. Yeah.
But I think it's just this is a guy that the fans are obviously behind him, and I think the WWE is going to really deliver with him. And I don't know that delivering means. I want your opinion on this. What are your thoughts on? He now has a one-on-one match with the new Daniel Bryan for the WWE Championship at Fastlane. I don't see Kofi Kingston winning the championship.
I see some sort of screw job with Eric Rowan involved,
Hmm.
and then perhaps Eric Rowan is banned from ringside at WrestleMania.
So
And that's the big one for Kofi.
yeah, and that's what I'm wondering is like I feel like that is such a turning whatever plans they have on its head. Like I think they did not anticipate Kofi Kingston being involved in the
No,
WWE title picture at WrestleMania,
no,
and he
and
may
but
not be, but I think he should be.
I remember they talked about weeks ago. You and I were talking about. They said it's going to be a new day actually in the WWE. They were going to change a lot of
Hmm.
things. Well,
Yeah,
if this is the first wave of what the change is going to be like, I'm very psyched. Just the excitement of the maybe 15, 20 minutes that he put in against Daniel Bryan in the
hmm,
Elimination Chamber. I was standing in front of my recliner. That
yeah,
was so
and
exciting.
here's the weird thing about that. Like all of this happened because Mustafa Ali got injured, and that's why
Good
Kofi was
point.
that's why
Good
Kofi was
point.
put in. And so I'm going to step back a little bit from the WWE and giving them I don't want to give them too much credit for their new era because I don't think they had any intentions of ever doing anything like this with Kofi. I think what happened was Kofi they gave him that spot and the internet started blowing up with, "Oh my God, give him the title, give him the title," And I think it's great that they didn't. Like, don't get me wrong. I think it worked out
But
beautifully.
why Kofi? Why did they? You know what I'm
I
saying? He's part of the New Day group. So why not someone who is bring up somebody else from
The
NXT?
reason I think they went with Kofi is fan favorite, high flyer. I think that was it. They're just like, oh man, we lost Mustafa Ali, who the crowd's really behind, and he's going to do all these amazing high flying moves. We need another high flyer, but we want somebody we don't want to just grab someone from 205 Live. We want to grab someone that the fans, we know they're really behind. And I think the WWE thought of it as the fans would be like, cool, Kofi Kingston, he's going to do some fun spots like they think in the Royal Rumble,
Yeah.
Like no one ever looks at Kofi Kingston when he says, I'm going to be in the Royal Rumble. Nobody goes, oh man, maybe he's going to win this thing. No, they instantly go, oh, I wonder what type of stunt he's going to do to not get eliminated,
Or what they could have done, and this is one of our topics regarding NXT, they really could have, and this was a surprise when I was a kid, they always brought in this guy you never saw before, and it was like, this guy's probably going to be a bum, and then he wins, and that would have been Ricochet. He would have been somebody who would have really been almost an unknown and made overnight.
Yeah. I hear your phone ringing. I think this is a great time to just say that I really hope for whoever's calling that you have Smart Hold. Smart Hold is one of our sponsors here on the Apter Chat. And let me tell you a little bit about Smart Hold. Are you a business owner? Okay. Yeah, well, I thought
that would be very smart of you.
Oh, I see what you did there. Are you a business owner or office manager? Do you have message on hold? If so, how much are you paying? If you're paying more than $35 per month, you are paying too much. Do yourself a favor. Check and see how much you're paying. If you aren't using Smart Hold as your message on hold provider, you are simply paying too much. For only $35 per month, Smart Hold gives you unlimited message changes, pro voice talent, and best of all, no contracts. Go to smart-hold.com. That's smart-hold.com for more information. Be smart. Get Smart Hold. And Bill,
by the way, be smart and don't spell out the word dash.
Yeah. I feel confident that our Apter Chatters got that. So kind of shifting gears from, we were talking about Kofi and you mentioned the NXT guys. Well,
I mentioned Ricochet because we were talking about, that high-flying guy and all that. But can you imagine if they brought him in as a mystery that night and some of the fans there are going to go like, oh, who is this? And he becomes like, oh, gosh, what's a good thing? Like when John Cena showed up on Raw the first time.
Yeah, I mean, just like a kind of overnight sensation. But what, though? That would have been better for Ricochet than the debut they actually gave him, except then the next night on SmackDown, they did a much better job of them.
Go back, because the debut they did with him, now that we're getting into this, to me was it was very average. And then his interview afterwards on the pay-per-view was, I was waiting for somebody to come and attack him.
Yeah, here's my issue with this whole bringing up the NXT guys. It looks a lot like the NXT guys are just going to be on every brand, which is a little confusing. And I've been waiting from the beginning of the brand split to see this happen. And it has happened. I mean, the brand split is slowly disappearing, just like it did last time. And everybody knew this was going to happen because the WWE can't commit to anything. You have the women's tag champs are now defending on all brands. You have NXT guys popping up. You have the previous NXT people popping up.
I thought there was going to be another draft type of situation coming up.
Oh, there's going to be. It doesn't mean, but they did the draft for years after they had already abandoned the thing. Like, it doesn't matter. There's nothing special about a brand split when you have people who can just jump all over the place. Because if that's the case, then here's my question for you. If the women's tag champions can defend on all brands, which is not necessarily a bad thing.
It's a good thing.
But why then is there a Raw women's champion, SmackDown women's champion, a Universal champion, a WWE champion? Yeah, I mean, I would actually be happier if you had two very separate brands and had champions either for specific, like they did back in the day, which was US is on one, Intercontinental's on the other, which they're still doing. Yeah. But tag team champions can go between brands and world champion can go between brands. And I think it's just they get kind of lazy with it,
Josh, I think anyone should be able to go into either brand. And the reason being it's more exciting for the viewer to watch a show when he doesn't really know who's going to show up on that show that
Yeah, but then
week.
that's not a brand split.
It doesn't need to be a brand split.
Well, no, then that's two different conversations, because a brand split, if you're having a brand split, then you're acting like it's two separate companies, in which case, no, they shouldn't be able to jump back and forth. Otherwise, what you're talking about is basically just having two shows and you don't know who's going to be on the show.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
So
I mean,
they
I
can
think
be titled 2 different days, 2 different ways, Raw and SmackDown, but talent should be able to just show up on either one.
Yeah, that's the way it used to be in the beginning.
Yeah.
And I think that maybe this brand split has just been kind of awful because, again, they don't commit to it. They never made the shows different enough. The only big difference is that SmackDown is a tolerable show that has some pretty interesting creative on it, and Raw is atrocious. So, with the occasional good segment.
Remember, this is Josh's opinion here, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah,
Right, but
I think it's most
Raw
people's
is hard.
opinion.
Raw is hard sometimes for 3 hours, but I want to get on to, while we're talking about the NXT people,
Mm-hmm.
you bring out a monster like Aleister Black,
Right.
and you're waiting to see him really go to town on somebody, and then he gets killed the whole match by Elias
Yeah,
on Monday night.
and there was no chemistry between the two. And I love Elias and Aleister Black.
I do too.
Some
And
people
the
don't have chemistry, and they didn't.
No, but it wasn't that. It was the thing was that the new guy, Aleister Black, who there are a lot of fans that don't have the WWE network. They don't know who he is.
Right.
So bring him in and have him monster kill somebody.
Yeah.
Don't put him in with Elias.
I mean, they did a much better job with him the next night as well. And that's the thing. It just felt so rushed. And here's one of
I disagree. Wait, I disagree. I don't think they did a much better job the next night. I think it was okay.
I'm not saying they did a great job. I'm saying it was much better than Raw.
And also, you have two guys now. You have Aleister Black and Ricochet. And I noticed when their matches were very close to each other that they both do that flying dive thing.
Oh,
like one match
the bounce off the...
yeah, and it's just... one guy to do that on the show is plenty.
I think that's a great point. And I think that that's something that can be expanded upon to the entire roster, where you have people doing the same moves. And it's just, there's a lot of oversaturation, a lot of showing that things haven't been thought out, in my opinion. But I have issues as well with the fact that, you just brought up... You just brought up EC3. You just brought up the what are their names? Otis and Tucker, or whatever. And all of a sudden it's like, okay, take a back seat. Take a back seat because we have these other people now, right? Like it's.
Yeah, I see what you're saying, but
I mean, all of a sudden, no. That's like they made this big deal. We're bringing up this NXT talent. A couple weeks later, it's like, guess what? We're bringing up 4 more NXT talents. And let me ask you, what did EC3 do last week?
Yeah, I know.
So
no, I agree with that. But what I'm saying is, and this is a strong statement that I would rarely make publicly, but I don't think the way they presented the NXT talent on either show was a way to really get the public really, really excited about them.
No, I don't think so either. And I think that it's a shame because you only get a first impression one time, and not that anything was bad, but again, it was very transparent to me that this was supposed to be a quick fix. It was like, oh, people loved halftime heat. Let's bring all those guys up and do whatever. So they put DIY back together. They have Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa, and they bring those guys in, right, to beat the Revival, who, after fighting, finally the Revival gets this opportunity. They win the tag titles, and the next week they lose to these guys from NXT. And that's not a knock on the guys from NXT, but these are your tag champions.
Oh, why? Yeah, you don't do that. That's number one. Number two is, again, I'm going to say this, is that audience there in person,
mm-hmm.
I would bet you more than half of them, maybe even 3/4, didn't know who these guys were.
Yeah, but that audience also, even for the people they did know, they were sitting on their hands.
No, I know that, but I'm just saying there's a large part of the audience that doesn't know who these people are.
Mm-hmm. No,
So
absolutely, absolutely. But shifting gears to something else, Bill. So a lot of people could be wondering what's going on with these NXT guys. Are they being called up? Are they whatever? But it's starting to look like it could actually be a real call up for at least like a Johnny Gargano, because he just dropped the North American Championship to Velveteen Dream.
one of my favorite performers, by the way,
Yeah,
who has been here with Leo Rush down to Apter's Alley. I love to name drop this
the
kind of
Dream
stuff.
the Dream does not remember that.
He does remember that. I saw
No.
your tweet,
Yeah, did you
but
get my reference with that tweet?
I did. I did.
Okay.
However,
Anytime they bring up anything, for people who don't know what we're talking about, anytime they have brought up on NXT TV, Patrick Clark, and they talk about him being on Tough Enough, they had that thing where the Dream, he's like the Dream does not remember that.
of course, I
Yeah,
got
so that was the joke.
I got it. But I'll tell
yeah.
you something. Whether they're going to be regulars on Raw and SmackDown, I don't know. I think they're going to pop for a while. They're going to pop in and out of everywhere. That's just the way I'm seeing this. And we all keep going back to an invasion angle, but Triple H made this official that they're here, and then Shane brought them in. Shane Triple H the second night for SmackDown. So I have a feeling they're just going to spot these guys in and out of Raw and SmackDown and not give them a specific brand.
Do you think that they missed the boat on something potentially really big? Like, I know and this is part of the problem with this new era. It was such a knee-jerk reaction to bad ratings, where they came out, oh, we'll now all be in charge of all of the whole McMahon family's in charge of every brand and blah, 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 and whatever. Do you think that maybe they missed the boat with bringing all these NXT guys up? They had Stephanie running Raw. They had Shane running SmackDown. Couldn't they have done a great thing with Triple H as the face leader of NXT, of that brand, coming in saying, this is the best brand that gets the least exposure, and NXT is invading Raw, NXT is invading SmackDown, and that could have been huge, and they just missed that boat.
I agree. I love that idea.
Yeah.
And I could see, and Triple H is the guy, the face of that company that could put that over so strongly. I totally agree, Josh.
Well, missed opportunity for the WWE. Could have been the new NWO, but
I think so too. So speaking about the NWO, Hollywood Hulk Hogan, not as Hollywood Hulk Hogan. In the news, the big news is that Netflix is doing a biopic on him, not a documentary, a biopic on him, and not going through the days of the Gawker scandal or anything like this, but just about Hulk Hogan, the real American, and Thor has been picked to.
Yeah, Chris Hemsworth.
Aquaman, was it?
No, it wasn't Aquaman. He was Thor. No, you're right. He was Thor.
And,
Can I just say for 1 second, that was an amazing transition that you just did there.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah,
thank
I
you.
was really impressed by that. But anyway, back to what you were saying. Yeah, Thor is.
But I also could have seen Aquaman playing Hogan, but
hey, who knows? Maybe he'll be playing somebody else in the because they're going to need a bunch of these jacked up guys to be playing.
Yeah, but now wait a minute. So let's bring something interesting. WWE brought Hogan back, but in Saudi Arabia, they've still, no matter what they say, they've still kept their distance from him.
Oh, sure.
Now WWE is also working with Netflix to produce some projects.
Well, I heard that they were working on a Vince McMahon movie.
Right. So what I'm trying to say is now, even though they're different production companies, the mothership that they're going to land on is all Netflix. So I wonder now if this is going to bring WWE more into bringing Hogan back onto their regular shows more often, on the TV shows.
If nothing else, at least just to promote, I'd assume, whatever's going on, if they're associated in any way. And, it's interesting. They have, we talk about Thor playing Hulk Hogan. If there's anything that I think could be learned from Marvel movies and from DC movies, DC has this great television franchise, which I know you've been a fan of some of their shows.
Arrow,
Um,
Smallville, yes.
yeah, so I mean, Smallville's a different. I loved Smallville, but that's kind of outside of the
I know,
canon,
but
if you will. Yeah, but something like Arrow and the Flash and any of those. Um, but then when it came time for the DC movies, there's no connection. There's a different actor playing Flash. There's different, there's no connection. Whereas Marvel has just seemingly rewritten how you do comic book movies because everything's connected from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., the TV show, to, and some of the Netflix shows are connected, some of them aren't. The ones that aren't, people usually complain about. The reason I bring this up is if they're planning to do a Vince McMahon movie, I think it could be kind of neat if whoever's going to play Vince McMahon at that time period, at that age, when they're going to be in the Hogan film and vice versa. Hogan, you can't do a Vince McMahon movie without having the Hulk Hogan character in there.
Oh, of course.
So,
I see where you're going
yeah,
with
I
this.
think same actors
Yeah.
and let them kind of be connected, let them intertwine, But maybe I'm overthinking what they're willing to do. I mean, this is a company that blew it on the NXT invasion.
But just the fact that after all the negative things that happened with Hulk Hogan, who was our guest on the first 3 episodes, well, 2.
First 2
One
episodes and then a third episode, yeah.
Of Hollywood Hulk Hogan.
Of course.
But just the fact that they're contemplating doing this when there might still be a little backlash going on, a negative backlash going on. I mean, this is great. I'm glad it's happening for him.
Yeah. So I think we've reached a point now where the dust has settled, and the people who have chosen to forgive him, or chosen to just move on, even if they're not forgiving, but just, okay, hey, let's move forward. Those people are kind of set, and the people who are not going to forgive him, and I'm not saying they're wrong not to, but the people who are not going to forgive him are not going to forgive him. And we're moving forward. So I think that, at some point in time, you have to move forward, and the WWE made a decision to bring him back, and whether that's popular or unpopular, it was a decision that was made. The same way that people questioned us having him on the show. It's whatever it is, you got to live with it. We made a decision. We own up to that. People who are doing this Netflix show, they've made a decision. They're owning up to it, and it is what it is. And I think that like I said,
it's going to do great, Josh.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be great. I think it's gonna be really, really interesting. And then also, let's not forget, they've made really entertaining films about serial killers. And I think we should all be able to agree that, without excusing anything Hulk Hogan may have said, a really popular Ted Bundy film, like I don't think you can really compare, Hulk Hogan to that. No. So it's one of those things where
maybe King Kong Bundy.
Right. So it's one of those things where you have to look at it and say, people were enthralled. I mean, look at the O.J. Simpson TV, the TV film or whatever it was, the miniseries that came out. People were enthralled with that. So I think that there's an audience that's going to be able to say, like, even if they're just, Hogan did this, Hogan did that. Hey, I'm still interested. Would love to learn.
All right, let me ask you a question.
Please.
Let me ask you a question. Open casting. Who do you want to play?
Who would I want to play?
That's correct.
Oh man, thinking back at that time, God, I don't. That's a great question. I'd have to think about that.
Why don't we put it out there for the Apter chatters?
Who they want me to play?
No, they want who they would play. You come up with an answer.
Oh, I thought you were going because I'm a well-established actor. That was I'm a
I've got my
IAW TV nominated actor. What's that?
I already picked my part. Who I want to play?
Who do you want to play?
Jimmy Hart.
Okay. You know who I want to play? You know who?
Baby, the Hulkster loves you, baby.
You know who I want to play? I want to play Bill Apter.
Oh, okay. You could.
There you go.
You got too much hair.
Well, I can. I'm sure I can wear.
All right. Let me say something about that. Not about the hair, but people are asking me I got comments, who's going to play me? I was the only thing that I was, other than we put him in the magazines all the time, and I knew his mother really, really well. I was very close to the family. When Stallone's office called the magazine office and they were looking for a certain type, and they had said that, they had heard about this Hulk Hogan guy. Do you have pictures of him? And I said, I have pictures of him, but we also have pictures of some other guys who look like they might be this type. And the other guy that I recommended was Superstar Billy Graham.
Right.
Eventually, when it all happened, Hogan got the part on his own merits. But people right now are like, oh, Apter got him the part. I didn't get him the part.
Well,
I just helped put the key in the ignition.
yeah, and here's something that the fans would kind of have to understand. And look, nothing would be cooler than to have somebody portraying you in this film. But even just, I mean, I would love just a little shout out, even if it's a cameo thing. If they had somebody made to look like you holding a camera at ringside, would be a fun thing.
Or somebody playing Stallone. Get Apter on the phone.
Yeah, but what I will say is this: the track record of how you were left out of Man on a Moon.
Oh,
If that's any indication, I don't think you're going to be featured in this film, because if you couldn't be featured in the film that you were without you, I'm not sure that film even would have ever existed. That's a tough one. So hopefully they'll at least have somebody at ringside who looks like
all
you.
right. In other news, Ty Dillinger has told the WWE he does not want to stay there.
Yeah. So I knew, was not friends with. I'm not name dropping over here. But I crossed paths with him when he was Sean Spears in OVW. And always thought he was a great talent. But the reason, and was always confused when they first brought him up to the, I want to say it was the ECW brand. And he was like Gavin Spears.
Josh, you said you want to say it. Say it.
What?
You just said, I want to say it.
Oh, Bill.
Go ahead. Keep It's the editor in me.
Okay, so I don't even know how to respond to that.
Sean Spears.
Yeah, so Sean Spears, and then they brought him up with like Gavin Spears or something like that. And I remember from the beginning, because I was watching as he was doing some great stuff as the TV champion down in OVW at the time. And then he gets called up, and I just was like, man, they really are misusing this guy, missing the boat on him. And then he was gone, and then it was really, I was I had heard about this Ty Dillinger. And when I finally saw who it was, I was like, oh man, wow, I can't believe that. He's working for NXT. And again, I'm like, man, he's just kind of like a jobber. He's not really doing anything. And then this whole Perfect 10 thing really picked up, and he became something there. And then he moves to the main roster, and that same thought of just like, okay, finally they're going to do something. And then nothing with him. One of the things that I think, first of all, the guts that it takes to say, I want out from the WWE, and I know how long this guy has been working to get there and to get to a spot. And he finally had reached a point now, he has an action figure, he has a t-shirt, he's well known by the fans, even if he's not being, well represented in the ring. But for him to basically look in the mirror and say, I'm better than this. I can do more. I have more to give.
Did you see that Cody sent out a very encouraging tweet to him?
Yeah, because he basically is doing what Cody did, betting on himself. But I was going to bring Cody into this because what a lot of people don't know, and I'm sure it's kind of starting to make the rounds on the internet, is that he and Cody, not only are they very close friends, but they were a team in OVW. Then they feuded in OVW. They have a long relationship in the business and personally as friends. So no, that doesn't mean just because you're friends with Cody Rhodes, you automatically have a job with AEW. However, a guy who's been underutilized but had a great fan response to everything that he was doing, even if he wasn't getting the quote unquote push. He has a loyal fan base. He does have recognition, even if it's not going to be the same name, Ty Dillinger. I personally think with no relationship with Cody, he would be a great get for AEW.
Oh, I agree. I agree. Totally.
With the relationship with Cody, I couldn't imagine it wouldn't happen. And if he was released, which we know that he asked for it. We don't know if he was actually granted his release. But if he was granted his release on the day that he asked for it, his 90-day no-compete would expire a couple of days before Double or Nothing. So
yeah, great point.
So read into it what you will, but yeah. What do you think about this, Bill? Like you've seen, you were right there at ringside during the Monday Night Wars, and you saw stuff like this. All of these people who have either been rumored to or have, we know Hideo Itami and Dean Ambrose not re-signing, but these people who've asked for their release. Is WWE starting to look more like a sinking ship? And it's not going out of business, but you know what I mean.
No, absolutely not. The grass is always greener on the other side. AEW will get a lot of these guys, and they'll do great in AEW. WWE will, really look at what you and other people say when you say is WWE a sinking ship. WWE is a massive corporation that because they might lose even a lot of talent, they're not going to be a sinking ship. They're always going to be the major force. Will someone like AEW step up and become an equal major force in a few years? That's a possibility. But are they a sinking ship? No.
I want to say it was the.
Then say it.
I want to say, but I'm not sure if it's right or not. But I believe the January episode of So Says Shernoff, which is available now on Demand Fight TV, I had a segment in there called Shernoff Soapbox. And in that segment, I addressed exactly what you're talking about, that people say, oh, it's this gigantic corporation, it can't go out of business, anything like that. One of the things that I mentioned was people are so focused on ratings. Ratings don't really matter as much as, you can look at something like attendance. And one of the things I pointed out was if AEW chose to run in the same city within a couple of weeks of WWE, if AEW proves to have a really strong brand, there is a chance that people are going to say, okay, well, where should I spend my money? Now, you're going to have these diehard people that are going to stay, they're going to know Raw. Raw is a brand. Raw is coming to town. That's where they're going to go. I don't know what this AEW thing is. But it wouldn't be the first time that, yes, I understand WWE is way bigger than it was back in, 95, but they were not in a good place when Nitro started.
Josh, attendance is not the key to their business anymore.
Not the key to their business, but we saw what a quiet crowd did to the energy of Raw on Monday. What about no crowd?
That's not going to happen. It's not going to happen.
Okay. It happened to TNA. It happened to WCW.
But exactly. But none of them are WWE and never were.
Okay. Look, I don't think they're going to go out of business, but I think that the WWE should be paying a lot of attention to the fact that if a reputation starts to become the WWE doesn't know how to present these guys, AEW does, even if that's not true, if that's the reputation, if that's the appearance, that's going to hurt them. And I think WWE is really going to have to step up.
We've got to see where AEW is going to be seen. Right now, AEW is seen on pay-per-view. We've got to wait and see what pieces unfold here. We've got to wait and see if AEW gets major television and then starts drawing people in, because a lot of people who are hooked, no matter what you say or people say how bad WWE might be, that still WWE is their brand, period, the end.
I agree. And I don't think WWE is going to go out of business, but I do think that WWE, I think there are going to be a lot of changes if they don't start making other changes. And you look at things like Pyro being gone. That was a cost-cutting measure. not because they were going out of business, but because they looked at it and said, "Oh, we could spend our money elsewhere." But
well, they play the music louder from the entrance themes now, so it's
well,
all right.
so that's
Josh, I have to actually get on the road shortly here.
okay. Well,
But before we go,
yeah,
because I have to get on the road because we need to talk to Nikita Koloff,
yeah,
and I need to get into my comfort zone down in Apter's Alley to hook up and connect with him.
all right.
You'll be there too, I assume.
Well, of course.
Of course, of course. But the last thing that I want to talk about on our headlines here, if it makes no sense to people, we're taping this at 7:40 on Thursday night.
Yes.
Correct? I've
Correct.
had nothing to eat all day. We still want to talk to Nikita Koloff, correct?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So I guess what's the word? Hangry?
Uh, Are you getting hangry?
I'm getting hangry. I've had nothing to eat
God.
like the whole. I did have a handful of Snyder's of Hanover pretzels.
Here's what people don't know about Bill. Bill
So
is
he's throwing this out.
Bill is the while we always say, the nicest guy in wrestling, and that's not a work, that's a shoot, as they say. But Bill also can have a tendency to be like a Snickers commercial. Wherever you see that, where they're like, you're not yourself right now. You're not yourself, and then he just give him a Snickers bar, and Bill will go back to being Bill.
Hershey's dark chocolate, or
oh, you going on a fruity adventure?
Fruit Adventure Tic Tacs. But before we get to our interview with one of my favorite people in the whole universe, and I don't mean the WWE universe. I'm talking about all that stuff that's out there. They have announced that they're bringing back the Dusty Rhodes the Classic.
Yes, the Tag Team Classic.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm thrilled about that.
Yeah, I think
Dusty's name stays alive.
I think that'll be really cool. I'm glad that that's a tradition that really seems to be sticking, and it's always been entertaining.
Wait a minute.
I'm
It's
waiting.
the Dusty Rhodes Classic, right?
Yeah.
So don't you think that the Young Bucks should be entered in this, or Cody and Ty Dillinger?
Oh my.
Hey, come on, we're throwing ideas around here.
That sounds good. Hey, I did hear that the Bucks were offered a invasion storyline to come into WWE, and they turned it down.
I heard the same thing. We don't really know because none of us were there, but I think an AEW invasion at the right time and the right place would be as big as the NWO invasion was.
I think that they are a good 5 years away from it having any weight to it. You have to build up one brand for people who want to see that. But I don't see it happening either. But man, there are so many things that I didn't.
Well, maybe
see
we
happening.
have to check and see if they bought tickets for MetLife Stadium.
Yeah, well, I'll have you check into that.
Or did they get comps?
I don't know. Bill, would you like to introduce this interview that we're going to do right now?
Well, again, as I mentioned, one of my favorite people who came to life in Jim Crockett Promotions and had one of the greatest in-ring careers of anyone in the world of professional wrestling. And when he got out. He didn't come back. He didn't return. And he will make his presence known again soon at the Crockett Cup that is being revived by the National Wrestling Alliance. So right now, let's go to Josh and I interviewing the one and only Nikita Koloff, comrade. First of all, welcome to the After Chat. And, I've interviewed you a zillion times, and it's always a pleasure. You were back when you first started as the Russian Nightmare. I had never seen anyone in years just take a character like this and become so almost overnight successful. Tell us a little bit about the background of how Nikita Koloff came to be born.
Well, great question, Bill. And again, you and Josh both, thank you for having me on the podcast. I really consider it a great honor and the opportunity just to share a little bit of my story. And you know, it's been amazing over the years. I look back on it, and many people, once I share this story with them, are like, they just kind of blown away by it, because they're like, wait a minute. No training, no background, no upbringing in wrestling, no dream of growing up being a wrestler, but yet, you know, this door of opportunity opened up for me in 1984, centered around the whole Olympic Games in Los Angeles when the Russians, the dirty Russians, boycotted the games in LA, and the persona being cast to be in those games, but because of the lack of participation by the Russians, I was able to turn professional under the guidance of Uncle Ivan Koloff, and launch a professional wrestling career. Now, on that note, that's part of the storyline, but you know, the history behind it is, you know, I grew up, you know, passionate about professional football and on that path to play it. When the Road Warriors, Animal and Hawk, got into the business, Animal was a longtime friend. I actually recruited him out of high school to play college football with me.
Really?
Oh, wow.
And we became. I did, and yeah, I can vividly see the day his mom and dad and he came to the campus to visit the campus, and I was given the tour, and that's the first time we had met, but I fell in love with the family. They fell in love with me and became one of their prodigal sons, and became a fourth son for them, and convinced Joe to come to play football with me. And so we did. And then he left college and went into pro football. I continued my college career, graduated, and it was about 2 years after I graduated college that he had called me and said, here's the storyline. Are you interested? And I said, do they know I have no professional training, no amateur wrestling background? I've never stepped in the ring and hit a ring rope. And they said, yeah, I told them. And I said, well, what would I need to do? And he gave me Jim Crockett's number.
Yeah.
They called his promoter in Charlotte. And the rest of the story is I called him, had a 5-minute conversation, sight unseen. Because in those days, you know, you're not sending pictures through your text messages. You know, it's just sight unseen. And I made sure he understood I had no training. He just gave me a date to be in his office with my head shaved. And I showed up the day he said to be there. And that's the day Nikita Koloff was born, June 4th, 1984.
Wow.
Did you know, did he test you out on doing the accent?
No, nothing. All he tested me on was he said, take your shirt off. I thought, well, that's kind of weird, but okay. Because when I walked in, keep in mind, I was in probably the most physical peak performance. I had graduated college, was training for pro football, spending about 8 hours a day in the gym. When I walked in his office that day, I was 285 pounds with 8% body fat and a 34-inch waist. And he took a look at me and said, wait right here. He walked back in with two guys. Now, I didn't know who they were. That was my first introduction to Don Cornotto and Ivan Koloff. They were the world tag champions. And he literally said, Don Cornotto, Ivan Koloff, take a look at your new partner. And see, part of the story, Bill, was I don't speak any English, right? I'm just off the boat, so I don't have to worry about an accent.
Right.
And so they were doing interviews that day. So they literally said, okay, you don't say a word. Ivan, put your chains around his neck. You keep that shirt off. Stand there. Every interview they do, and just look mean. I go, okay, I can do that, I think. And I get paid. Okay.
Really?
So we did hours of interviews. And when we finished up, Jim Crockett said this, be in Raleigh, North Carolina tomorrow night, you're going to wrestle on television, having never been in a ring.
Really?
Yeah.
And who was it? Who did they put you up against? Do you remember?
Well, he went on to be. I do. That's a funny story too. He went on to be known as Barry Horowitz. But at that time, he was known as Bret Hart in the NWA, not the Bret Hart of Canada, just But
I didn't know that. I did not know that. I'd never heard that before.
I saw him. Yeah. He was Bret Hart in the NWA, and then he went on to New York and became Barry Horowitz. But the funniest part, I think, of that story, I saw him 2-3 years ago at an autograph signing. And what was interesting is I pulled him aside. I said, "Hey, I got a question for you." He's like, "Okay." And he's like, I go, "Did you ever know that night I stepped in the ring with you that I had never been in a ring before?" And he goes, "Nah, they kind of left that bit of information out." And I said, "Probably a good thing for you on your part." That was it. And 11 seconds later, I had my first win in professional wrestling on television in front of a sold-out crowd.
And who was at that point? Because I was there all the time, but my memory doesn't serve me right sometimes. Was that under Dusty at that point as the booker?
No, Dusty had not come in as the booker yet.
Right.
In fact, I was so new to the business, I didn't even know what a booker was. But
right.
But he was there, King Kong Bundy. I mean, it was the Stan Hansen. It was the who's who of wrestling. They were doing 4 special hours of TV taping, and I was on hour number 3. And they showed me in the dressing room how to lock up, how to tie up, and a couple basic things before I went to the ring.
Amazing. Absolutely amazing. So little by little, you started becoming one of the most feared, as we used to say in the magazines, one of the most feared men in professional wrestling. And I have to tell you something, when we showed pictures of you in the magazines also, the fans were like, this guy looks awesome. So as you were going on, you kept taking care of yourself, you kept learning. Who were the people that taught you mostly all the ropes as you were going on and learning?
Well, I have to give. I mean, there's lots of people that get credit. I would have to give credit to, but 2 of the foundational pieces of the success of my career are Don Turnodal and Ivan Koloff, because what we did from that first night in Dorton Arena was, which, by the way, I'll throw this little fun part in there too. I think Crockett started having second thoughts because we really didn't get there early enough to be able to get in the ring and work out a little bit. And Ivan talked him into still letting me do it. And all Ivan told me was, whatever you do, don't trip on the ropes getting in the ring. I thought, how hard could that be? I found out how hard that can be. But especially if you've never been in a ring before. But what Don and Ivan and I did for the next 2-3 months is we would get to the towns 2 or 3 hours early. They would bump all over the ring before the matches and teach me the mechanics of wrestling. And then Ivan would sit in my corner for a single or maybe a handicap match, me against 2 guys. I would sit in their corner and watch their match as the World Tag Champions. And then on the way home, we would then talk about the psychology of wrestling. So I learned the mechanics prior, the psychology after the match each night. And so they get a ton of credit. Of course, Dusty gets a lot of credit once he did come in and get the book. We worked some angles against each other, and then obviously eventually the superpower angle. But and then I was so blessed, guys. I mean, I got to get in the ring with Johnny Weaver, with Dory Funk Jr. I mean, some legends of the business that put me over. That got in the ring with me, had incredible matches, and put me over to help build that character into what it became.
And you know what, you had, you kind of had the rocket strapped to you right away. And as you're talking about, with really no experience, and when I was kind of just doing some research to learn a little bit about your earlier career when you first started out, because I was not watching in 1985 or 1984. But I think it was like 1988 when I started watching. But the one of the things that I noticed was, of course, your Great American Bash 1985. It was just about a year, maybe 13 months after you started. There you are against Ric Flair. at the Great American Bash for the world title,
yeah.
you know.
Almost to the day. So picture, okay, here's a guy who's never had any training or background in wrestling of any kind, and within 13 months, I'd become the World Tag Team Champion, the World Six-Man Champion.
Yeah, I kind of glossed
over
that.
And now I'm wrestling. Yeah, and now I'm wrestling Ric Flair for the World Heavyweight title. Of course, part of that story was we're going to take all the gold back to Moscow, right?
I remember that. I was there.
Yes, you were, Bill. I know you were very influential is the right word in helping all of this become a success. I mean, even some of your magazine shot, Bill, the cover shots and different things that you did. I have people just today on Twitter, people send me a couple of your cover shots and he goes, this is the first magazine I ever bought, and you were on the cover, you know. So you were very influential in helping the success of my career as well.
Thank you.
So with you know, almost to the day a year, did you get, you know, nowadays everybody, something like this, somebody like you were to come out today, everyone on the internet would go, oh, he's getting so much heat. He's getting so much heat in the locker room, you know, and there'd be all these rumors. Did you actually get any heat from anybody else? Did anyone look at you and go, why is this guy in the main event against Ric Flair? You know, he's only been here a year. He wasn't really trained from before. Like, did you have any of that, or was everybody pretty supportive?
Yeah. Well, if you spent any length of time around the wrestling business, which I know you had, there was not just the main event at the first ever Great American Bash, but even matches leading up to that, and even matches after that. I mean, the whole turn to become the Superpowers with Dusty. There was animosity all along the way, and Ivan, to his credit, God rest his soul, Ivan, to his credit, was so inspirational and encouraging in regards to that. And you know, if he said it once, he said it more than once. He said, Nikita, listen, don't let that bother you. You stay focused on your career and what you're doing, and understand, yes, maybe you didn't pay your dues in a wrestling ring or in a high school gym or somewhere along, but you obviously paid your dues in other ways by taking care of your body, building it to what it became, and then becoming a student of this business that has led to your so accelerated success. And so don't let that bother you. Stay focused. So yeah, there was great question. There was tons of that, lots of that.
Good question. Great question, Josh. And putting myself into that dressing room area, I used to see, you know, that whole Crockett family was like one big family. There was an upper tier, of course, that got to use his private plane, etc. But I did see when you first started, a lot of the guys were like, you know, how come this guy's getting what are they doing with this guy? Because everybody's vying for a spot. Take us to what was one of my favorite times to photograph and report on, and that was the Best of 7 series with Magnum TA. Oh, I can never forget that.
You know what, Bill? It is the number one. When I go out and do autograph signings, it's typically the number one thing mentioned by the wrestling fan. I mean, they'll mention the Flair match and the Great American Bash and the War Games and, you know, some of the other the Road Warrior chain matches. I mean, they'll bring up something, but probably the number one most recognized or most mentioned is the Best of 7 against Magnum TA. In fact, I was just with the guy recently signing some autographs, and I don't know where he got it. He's going to give me some copies at the end of the month, but he had a printout, an 8x10 printout with all the dates and the results and everything, like in one corner, and then some of the pictures from some of those matches. And I'm like, dude, that's amazing.
Wow.
Get that. And yeah. And so I'm excited when I get back to the States. He's going to give me some copies of that. But that said, that was certainly part of the most memorable part of my career was I loved working with Terry. I felt great chemistry working with each other. The fans, it was easy to draw the fans in, and we had similar snug styles of working. So from a believability standpoint, I used to hear fans say, I don't know about any of those other matches, but that match against Nikita Koloff and Magnum TA was real. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, right. You mean they weren't?
Well, there was a couple things there that might not have been, but.
From the photography standpoint, when I was around the ring shooting the pictures of those matches, and when you're talking about snug, those matches to me were the finest when you want somebody to watch professional wrestling and you're not sure whether this is, as they say, a shoot or a work. You two put on the finest exhibitions of what professional wrestling was supposed to look like.
Well, and I appreciate it. Part of my goal, every night I stepped into the ring, part of my goal was to give, I was like, I don't know about any of the other matches. I don't know, what the fans walk away saying, but part of my goal stepping into the ring was I want to make sure I give the fans their money's worth every night I step into the ring. So I'm going to give it my best effort, whether it's a 10-minute match or a 1-hour Broadway, 1-hour draw against Ric Flair. I mean, I'm gonna give it everything I have and give it my best. And I tried my best to do that each and every night, and including those matches against Magnum.
So, yeah, that was so great. No, go ahead, Josh.
No, you were talking about Magnum TA, and one of the things that I think we had one of the fans of the show had sent you a tweet about this because we had asked for some questions. And I believe you had answered this already on Twitter, but I wanted to ask you, Magnum TA, aside from obviously your feud with him, when he was involved in his car accident, which ended his career, that kind of was a turning point for you because you ended up replacing, or at least the rumor is that you ended up replacing him with Dusty Rhodes. So do you think that you would have, and I can't remember what you had responded to this before, so I apologize for asking again, but do you think that you would have turned face? Do you think that it would have happened when it happened? Do you think any of that would have happened down the line had Magnum TA not been in that accident?
It's a great question. My initial thoughts would be it certainly would not have happened at that particular time. If I was going to turn babyface at some time, that would not have been the time to do it. Got a ton of heat on me as a heel. Magnum's being groomed as the next world champion.
Yes.
That really was the path he was on. And of course, him and Dusty working together as America's team and all of that. So that just would have continued on. I believe my career as a heel would have continued on. Someone, I forget who it was, recently had shared with me, they said they were talking with, they used to travel with Dusty when he was on the creative team in the WWE, and said, hey, that angle with Nikita becoming your partner as the Superpowers, I got to tell you, they said that was either the most brilliant move in wrestling ever, or could have turned out to be one of the worst moves. I forget exactly how they said, but you get the point. They thought that could have been an absolute disaster, especially for Nikita's career. But of course, as it works out, it was a brilliant move. And so I don't know if I would have ever turned babyface because, I mean, to my knowledge, Bill, you may know better than I, was there ever a Russian babyface prior to that time?
No, and probably, to be honest, there was no reason to do that because you would have been had Magnum won the world title, Nikita Koloff would have probably been first in line for the title shots as well.
Yep.
Yeah. So I don't think it would have made sense. Yeah.
the feuds would have continued on. So no, I don't know that I ever would have had the experience of wrestling as a babyface, and certainly it would not have happened.
Oh, wait a minute. Wait a minute. I'm hearing in my head, you have to give me a Magnum TA, please.
You mean maggot TA, maggot TA?
Maggot. Oh, no, Magnum. Yeah. So let's move now to the special moment of you and the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes together, baby, as the superpowers.
Yeah, that's right, baby. Son of a plumber from Austin, Texas, baby. Yeah,
if you will.
That you're saying.
If you will. By the way, are you following what his son Cody is doing currently?
I am. Just in the last 6-8 months, I've been kind of keeping an eye on what he's doing, and I don't know about this whole American Nightmare thing. I may have to challenge him on that. There's only one nightmare, and that's the Russian Nightmare. He may want to stick with the whole American Dream theme. I'm just saying.
You heard it here first. Cody Rhodes versus.
Maybe that's the mystery opponent for Double or Nothing.
Yeah. That might be.
Yeah.
So let's take it now. We have the Crockett Cup. Jim Crockett Promotions comes up with this great idea for the Crockett Cup, and in the end, on the first version of this, it's you and the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes, winning the Crockett Cup, and the National Wrestling Alliance has announced now that after ages and ages, that Billy Corgan and Dave Lagana have announced that they're bringing the Crockett Cup back, and you are involved. Tell us about it.
I am. I was excited to talk with Dave Lagana and about the possibilities of maybe being one to hand that trophy to the winner. Having won it in 1987 when Dusty and I, as the Superpowers, won the Crockett Cup. And I think it's, again, just a brilliant idea to, bring it full circle back around, and the fans, from what I can tell, just in response to social media, and are eating it up. And I have to say this, I'm really excited about the whole idea, what Billy Corgan's doing with the trying to reestablish the tradition of the NWA as an organization, a wrestling body, if you will, and the NWA heavyweight champion, and who knows, perhaps the NWA tag team belts will show up on the scene again one day. But just that whole idea of reestablishing, and I say that because I know, again, from all my years of travels, doing lots and lots of autograph signings over the years, and feedback from the fans, that the WWE is always going to be there, right? I mean, it's the starship up there in Space Galactica, okay? But there's always room for competition, and the fans are hungry, as they have said to me over and over again, that golden era of wrestling that you were a part of. We'd love to see something like that again. And so if these guys really stick to it and stay on that path, I think they're going to do extremely well. And I'm just excited to be a part of it. And who knows, I may be part of more than just the Crockett Cup. We'll have to see. Time will tell.
Okay. I would like to see this. A question out of nowhere here, because originally billed from Russia, Rusev. Have you seen him from when he started in WWE?
I've not. I've heard about him, and his match. I've never actually seen a match of his. I've just heard quite a bit about him.
I only asked because somebody had said, "Oh, this guy's like a new Nikita Koloff." So
well, and that's what I've heard. Yeah,
okay,
like a modern day version. Yep, I've heard that same thing.
Before we let you go, please tell us about your other passion, your relationship with God.
Yeah, it's really the foundation at this juncture of life and what I'm doing and is full-time ministry. In fact, I'm calling you guys today from Maui, Hawaii, where I am visiting my newest grandbaby, my daughter Kendra and her husband Brandon had their first child, Monroe Grace.
Oh,
And so
congratulations!
I'm out here, and then well, thank you. And I'm actually flying over to Oahu this afternoon. I'll be doing a men's breakfast Saturday morning, and then preaching on Sunday morning there and on the island. First time on that island. And men's ministry. I'm very heavily involved. Lex Luger is a partner with me in a new launch of a men's ministry later this spring. Actually, right after the Crockett Cup tag team tournament. But that is was a transformation of my life after I left wrestling in tail end of 1992, beginning 1993. That I just found myself. I had not had much of a church background or upbringing, but I found myself at an altar, 17 October 1993, having given my life to the Lord, and then the doors just began to fling wide open to begin to preach and minister to people in now 28 different countries and just all over the world. And it's been amazing. And I appreciate you letting me share a little bit of that story, because that's kind of the whole foundation of who I am and what I do now, even with my involvement in wrestling, whatever that looks like in the future, it's all a part of it.
I'm anxious to see that Nikita Koloff come back somehow. I
have a question, and this kind of goes along with the fact that with your with finding religion and everything, you retired at a relatively young age, especially by the standards today of a lot of people in the business who are still active, like a Chris Jericho or somebody. Obviously wrestling had this huge boom that is, referred to as the Attitude Era. But of course, even prior to that, WCW, which is where, you were in the early 90s, WCW in the mid 90s to mid to late 90s really had a boom as well. A lot of that Attitude stuff, I would assume wouldn't really kind of mesh with where your life took you. But did you ever wish or consider being a part of that time period, that Monday Night Wars time period? Do you ever wish that you were a part of that?
Great question. I've had similar questions like that posed to me over the years, because truthfully, I walked away right before all the, as well as that explosion on the financial piece of it. I walked away before the multi-million, like Lex Luger likes to say, I went from making thousands to making multiple millions of dollars. And I walked away from all of that. And so that's part of what people ask as well. Man, you could have made so much money and all of that. And I have zero regrets for walking away the timing in which I did, because I walked away under my own terms. And looking back now, you're probably right. I didn't really watch much, or if at all any of that era, but I saw enough and or heard enough to know, boy, it would have really compromised my faith to be a part of that. And so I truly believe that part of the destiny for me, part of the journey and the destiny for me was to walk away when I did and have the encounter that I had in 1993, that month of October, because, and how wrestling ties into that, I say it this way, what did I do in wrestling? I flew on airplanes, I rented cars, I stayed in hotels, I talked on microphones in front of cameras, I entertained crowds for a living. Well, I'm not entertaining crowds anymore, but I am flying on airplanes, renting cars, staying in hotels, talking on microphones in front of cameras. So if you want to say, in this sense, it was a divine setup by the Lord by opening that door of wrestling, which I had never expected or anticipated. And it was training ground for the ultimate call on my life, which was to, go out and share the good news of the gospel. So no regrets. Josh, and zero regrets on leaving when I did.
And you say that you're not entertaining now, but I'm sure that's not entirely true, because, when you're any form of public speaking, if you really want to engage the person you're speaking to, I'm sure that what you learned in wrestling has allowed you to be a more engaging public speaker as well.
Yes, 100% true, and that's true. And when I say entertaining, I'm not, trying to put on a performance or just get a
Right.
laugh out of people. Now, yes, I'll interject some humor into my sermons, into my messages, or depending on the audience and who I'm talking to, whether it's young youth in a high school gym or men on a men's ministry event or something of that nature, or a Sunday morning. So yes, I will incorporate, some humor, but again, to that point, all of that training that I had from wrestling certainly did help me become more, I liked how you said it, more engaging with the audience and bringing across the ultimate message that I feel I'm supposed to bring on that particular day. So, yeah.
All right. Well, I just want to say, as somebody who did grow up watching you, and then did kind of always wonder what had happened to you, just as a young wrestling fan, this has been a real honor for me to get to talk to you, and I'm very happy to see where you are in your life now. So thank you so much from me personally, and I'm sure Bill would like to thank you as well. If Bill's still here, I don't know. I think something happened to Bill. I guess I'll wrap this up. But
I guess you get to wrap it up, Josh. But
yeah.
Well, and to you and Bill both. Again, I'm very honored by the opportunity just to be able to share just a little bit of my story and really kind of on a wrestling note. As I said, I don't know, with my involvement with the Crockett Cup and the NWA, where else that potentially could go. We'll see what happens there. I am excited at the possibilities. Got a few creative ideas that I'll throw out there and see where that might lead. So the fans can just kind of hang with me for right now on the edge there and see if it leads to anything more.
Well, I wish you the best of luck, and thank you so much. And I am going to go try and find what happened to Bill and how he got disconnected here. But thank you so much for joining us.
Hey, thank you guys, and I appreciate it. And to all the fans out there, I look forward to hopefully one day crossing paths with you, and if I haven't already, and taking a picture, signing an autograph, or just getting a handshake. And Josh, hopefully one day we'll get the opportunity to shake hands and meet face to face.
Absolutely. I'd love that. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Well, that was an awesome interview with Nikita Koloff, and thank you again for being there.
Wait a minute,
folks. I have Bill back on the line.
Yeah, no, I am back. So what happened is my computer had the blue screen of death.
Yeah, that's a tough one. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people have experienced that before. But we were worried sick about you.
Whoa.
But,
well, thank you.
But it was great. At the end of it, Nikita had the opportunity to tell everybody his true feelings about you, and
come on.
No, but honestly, it was in all seriousness, it was an awesome.
Now wait a
interview.
minute. He just tweeted me while we're taping this. Hang on a minute. No, not tweeted me. He instant messaged me.
Oh my.
Let me know when this will air so I can help promote it. So make sure you send Nikita a tweet tonight. When we go on the pod waves.
Okay. I mean, I definitely was going to anyway, but thank you for letting me know.
And he also said thank you, and thank Josh too, and look forward to seeing you at WrestleCon.
All right. Yeah, I'm absolutely looking forward to seeing him at WrestleCon. And we're looking forward to seeing all of you Apter Chatters at WrestleCon. We have a booth, a table, an area presented by the Apter Chat. Bill will be there. I will be there. And we're going to be there both days of WrestleCon, and we're really looking forward to meeting all of you Apter Chatters. Bill, any thoughts on that?
I understand also Mac Davis, who is the sponsor of Smarthold of our show. Mm-hmm. He will be there, and a lot of high level guests will be passing by and stopping at our table. And I will have my books on sale, an entire package. So if you don't have my book, it's Wrestling Fix.
I didn't know it was broken.
You can find out there. And we're gonna have a grand old time. More details on our next After Chat. And you can follow me on Twitter at Apter1Wrestling. That's the number 1, not the word.
Yes, and you can follow the show at The Apter Chat on Twitter, Facebook.com/The Apter Chat. You can go over to YouTube.com/The Apter Chat. Make sure to also go to OneWrestlingVideo.com to check out Bill's videos on there. You can find me at So Says Shernoff. You can go to theapterchat.com to check out our show, check out our merch, get Bill's book. And you can also go to SoSaysShernoff.com to check out my show on Fight TV and some of my own unique merch. Yeah, what else? Listen, if you guys follow me, do me a favor. Try and find my YouTube page because I'm trying to get up to like 100 subscribers so that I can get youtube.com/So Says Shernoff. So, do me a favor if you feel kind and want to. We'll have some cool interviews on there. Also at WrestleCon, we'll talk about this more, but I will be filming some scenes for my show, So Says Shernoff on Fight, at WrestleCon. And I'll have some of my shirts there, and I'll also be encouraging people to buy Bill's book. So,
all right. Well, I certainly hope so. I certainly hope so.
Of course.
All right. That's, as they say, like that's a wrap.
Yeah, and I think, and I feel like it's the only rap we really need to hear right now, right?
No, I think so. We'll see you
at the matches.